This is Locked On Bets, the daily betting show that means business from the Locked On Podcast Network. Hosted by Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers, they're dropping fearless picks with an inside edge to put money in your pocket. If there's action, they've got the lock. This is where smart bets start. It's Locked On Bets.
Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Locked On Bets. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports with you as we take a look at plenty of different things today. We'll look at ALCS Game 3, Mariners and the Blue Jays. Seattle trying to take that commanding 3-0 lead now back at home. Also, a couple NHL plays. Went 2-0 in the NHL last night. We'll recap that in just a little bit. And a game that's circled on everyone's calendar for college football tonight, our lock, Sam Houston State and UTEP. We're going to break that down as well. So we got plenty to get to today. So without further ado, let's start with the blowout special.
Oh boy. Last one out, turn off the lights. This one's a blowout.
ALCS Game 3 back in Seattle as the Mariners took 2 in Toronto. Now the Blue Jays make the dreaded trip across a couple time zones and up to Washington to take on this Mariners team looking for their first World Series appearance ever. Well, not tonight. It's only 2 more wins, but you know what I'm saying. At least they're on the cusp of it. George Kirby takes the mound, Lee, against the Blue Jays struggling lineup. What do you like with the strikeout prop?
George Kirby from powerhouse Elon College is going to take the hill, and he did it in Game 5. And tell you something, I've listened. You know, it's hard to gauge if you're not there, but listening to the audio, I thought that last game in Seattle was the loudest game I've ever heard. I mean, it was crazy the first 2-3 innings, how loud it was, and then right at the end when they won the game. So give their crowd credit. I mean, they've been starved 24 years of basically nothing. The franchise has been dormant. Ownership, they blame the owners for not really trying to win, just want to make money, just want to be semi-competitive. They've been always, seems like, around 500, but they made moves at the deadline and it's paid off. Now, George Kirby was injured to start the year. I think he missed like the first 6 weeks of the season, had some arm trouble, come back, and it looks like he's finally getting into a groove. 126 innings pitched this year, 137 strikeouts, so he's above 1 strikeout per inning. In the Game 5 that he pitched, and you could tell he was pumped and did the job. 5 2/3 innings pitch, 6 strikeouts. So I think he's going to last 5-6 innings here, and I think you got a team, Toronto, that's going to try to, these teams, they don't want to play small ball. They don't want to do the little things, bunt. They just want to go for the big inning and the big bopper, and that's Toronto. They want that big inning, and George Kirby, I think, going to add a couple miles to his fastball tonight, be pumped again. All we need to do is get over 4.5 strikeouts. If he goes 5 innings, I think he'll at least get us 1 strikeout per inning. I think he goes 5 to 6 innings. So we're going to go with a blowout special. George Kirby, Seattle Mariners starting pitcher, over 4.5 strikeouts.
And the Mariners, again, back at home now, and we'll see if they can continue this great run. Remember, they were behind the Astros for a bit, and they passed them in the AL West, won the division, and now a couple wins away from the World Series. Let's look back at last night's action, Lee. Went 2-1. We're going to kind of go backwards, start with the loser first. Your guy, Yamamoto, you had him under strikeout last night, and he ends up, last time he faced Milwaukee, he got 2 outs and got pulled. Last night, complete game victory, gave up a homer early, didn't phase him. 7 strikeouts. Dodgers now up 2-0 over the Brewers. They head back home looking to win a couple and close out that series. But Yamamoto, though, went the whole way last night. After he struggled the first time against him, he was really on last night.
Yeah, and I thought, they're going to pull him after 6 or 7. I mean, they pull him even after 7. He's under the total. Of course, he gets the strikeout in the bottom of the 8th and 1 in the 9th to go over. So that's what derailed us. Didn't want to play any small ball and, just going for the big bopper, these home runs and doubles, and then it's cost them. So, give him credit, but thought we were there. I thought he'd go 6-7 innings, not a complete game. You almost never see that anymore. So, loser there.
Yeah, Snell went 8 innings the first game, 9 innings last night. So Dave Robertson doesn't have to use his very shaky bullpen, which is a good thing. Now, in the NHL, we went 2-0. And starting with your pick, Lee, you had Washington. They trailed Tampa Bay early. They came back tied at 1 in overtime. So the Lightning continue to struggle. But good one there is the Capitals still off to a pretty good start here.
Yeah, and they had some really good shots. They probably should have won the game by more. So team at home, they're pretty darn good. And like I said, Tampa Bay seems like the only time they really get up is when they're playing Florida Panthers. And most of that is they love to fight. So I think Tampa Bay's got some problems here. So give Washington credit. Washington sometimes when they're right around to pick them, usually is the right side.
And we hit on the Predators Maple Leafs over in the first period. Backup goalies in. Toronto scored 2. It was a high-scoring game there. So the Maple Leafs got back on track. It's always good to see the backups in. So 2-0 in the NHL, lost the baseball play. Another note in the NHL, we're going to have a lot of hockey today just because here on Wednesday before we get back to NFL tomorrow, we have a college football play coming up. But one thing, too, last night, the New York Rangers, they get shut out at home by Edmonton. They lose 2-0. And the Rangers, how bad they have been so far at home, at least this season, Lee, which is kind of amazing. 3 times they've been shut out already by the Capitals, the Oilers, and the Penguins back on opening night. It's just unbelievable how they have a good goalie in Shesterkin, but the offense just isn't there now.
Crazy. I mean, there's some tough times in New York. Now, if you're a Jets fan, you're obviously usually not a Rangers fan, but some of these New York teams, the Yankees getting knocked out. So the Yankees, not getting the job done. And now the Jets and now the Rangers off to a tough start. So except for the Giants resurgence here and beating the Eagles last week, not a whole lot that they like going on in New York right now.
Now, just to shift over to that, I don't know if you'll have a pick on Panthers-Jets coming up on Sunday, but just to – Carolina's 0-3 on the road. They're 3-0 at home. You've seen they've had some pretty impressive wins at Bank of America Stadium. On the road, they've not been good at all. But now the Jets, they're the second team this season that is playing in Europe that's now coming back with no bye week. We saw Cleveland do it, go to Pittsburgh last week after they lost the Minnesota game out in London. And they're just not very good offensively. They couldn't get anything generated against the Steelers. But now the Jets, with all the problems they're having, bye week. Now you're just turning right around after that disastrous ending in the Bronco game, and now you got to get up and try to get your first win of the season?
It wasn't just the ending. How about the right before halftime? They fake a punt. They barely get it. And then you don't do anything with it. You don't try to push the ball down the field. What really frustrates me as a fan just watching a game and know what you should do. Aaron Glenn is way over his head. So he should have been telling the offensive coordinator, we need to try to score here right before the half. And nothing. And also during the game, when your offensive line, I think they gave up, was it 9 sacks, Kevin? Am I right?
Something like that. Yeah, he was getting killed back there, Fields.
Okay. Move the pocket. Throw on first down. If you're throwing every time 3rd and long, you got to try to pick up, 6, 7, 8 yards on first down. So not using the tight end, Taylor, who I think is a weapon coming around. So it was a complete disaster. Last year, I don't know if you remember this, when Denver and the Jets played, I think the final was 10-9, Denver won. And then this was 13-11, maybe the worst back-to-back games where 2 teams played that aren't even in the same division back-to-back years. So it was horrendous. The lines also flopped here. It was the Jets as a 1.5-point favorite. And now, if you were smart, you took Carolina plus 1.5 because they're now minus 1.5. So a lot of people probably will stay off that game there because, as we know, both teams are so bad, we might end up with a 15-14 game, where it's decided by a safety or 4 or 5 field goals. So that will definitely not be one of the games that I watch live. I usually watch 3 or 4 games live and, in the early time slot. And that's an early time slot. And then I tape the rest and watch them later that night the next day. Guarantee I wouldn't watch that game live if you paid me.
Now, I guess it goes to show you that Aaron Rodgers wasn't the problem in New York, because you see what he's doing in Pittsburgh, and we'll talk more about Steelers-Bengals coming up tomorrow, the Thursday night game, to kick off Week 7. But, I mean, who would have thought, 6 weeks of the season that the Steelers would be running away with the AFC North? I mean, yes, Lamar and Burrow are hurt, which doesn't help, but, maybe Pittsburgh has a chance, but now they're just running away with this thing.
I mean, no one wants to do anything. Who knows? Maybe Cincinnati can make a run here. Joe Flacco, I thought that was a great addition. First half looked horrible. I mean, they could do nothing. But in the second half, they were clicking, and Green Bay's cornerbacks were all over the receivers. They were right there. So Joe Flacco's passes the second half, he looked amazing. So, some of these quarterbacks, 40-plus years old, we saw Tom Brady do it. We're seeing some others, obviously, like Aaron Rodgers now. So Joe Flacco with a much better cast. And as long as he gets a little bit of protection, and Cincinnati gave him that in the second half, who knows? Maybe it's going to be Cincinnati, because Baltimore looks like they're done. Their defense is horrendous. And even if Lamar Jackson comes back, they're not the team. Cleveland, they've already folded up 10. So who knows? If Pittsburgh had a couple key injuries or Cincinnati catches fire, you never know.
Yeah, and it's interesting how that division has flipped just 6 weeks into the season. Steelers-Bengals coming up tomorrow to kick off Week 7 of the NFL. Coming up, we have a couple NHL plays for tonight. Also, college football, Conference USA, where you have the lock of the day. That is also straight ahead right here on Locked On Bets. Let's now talk about FanDuel, and that's right. NFL season is underway, and we got Week 7 right ahead. FanDuel is an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And what can you bet on? Everything. You have so many choices. Steelers, Bengals to kick off Week 7. If you want to lay the points with Pittsburgh, go right ahead. You think Cincinnati's got a shot, take the points with them. Also, all of the player props. Aaron Rodgers, his passing yards. Jamar Chase, his receiving yards. So many options even for that game. If you don't want to bet on the game, you can also bet on NFL futures, the MVP. Patrick Mahomes, surprise, surprise. He is now the favorite at FanDuel to win that award. Josh Allen is right behind him. And the Chiefs and Bills are tied for the top favorite odds as far as who's going to win the Super Bowl at FanDuel. Also, AFC champion, NFC champion, the individual awards. All of those you have just in the NFL. Also, college football, baseball playoffs, NHL, NBA starts up next week. College basketball in a few weeks. So many things going on at FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Locked On Bets continues here on a Wednesday. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling at Paramount Sports. Now the NHL, 4 games on the slate tonight. We got 2 picks coming up. First, let's begin with our hidden gem.
To find a diamond in the rough, you need to dig a little deeper for those hidden gems.
All right, the Chicago Blackhawks. They are on the road tonight in St. Louis against the Blues. A couple old rivals hooking up. And we're going to take a lead for our hidden gem. The Blackhawks around plus 160 in the first period against the Blues. Now, St. Louis is back from a mini 2-game road swing in Calgary and Vancouver, won both those games, and they're actually their first home game of the season. They got shut out by Minnesota 5-0. They look bad in that one. They've only led through 20 minutes once in 3 games. Meanwhile, for Chicago, I will say this. They have not led through the first period yet this season, but they have not allowed a goal in the first period in the last 2 games, and they are coming off a win over Utah, so you have a little bit of momentum here. Also, this is just a quick stop for Chicago. They had 2 games at home. After this, 2 more games at home. So really, this is just a one-stop road trip, then back to Chicago after this. In 2 games in St. Louis last year, the Blackhawks didn't allow a goal in the first period to the Blues. So let's go with Chicago, plus 160. St. Louis off a couple big wins. They're too heavy tonight, I believe. So let's go with the Blackhawks first period against the Blues as our hidden gem.
I think it's a strong selection. I think you're going to win, and we're going to go for another 2-0 sweep. And if we can get it, we'll move to 4-0 in the hockey.
Yeah, so let's see how we do it. As let's go now to our wrong team favorite.
What? the
WTF.
The early games tonight, or one of the early games in the NHL, Ottawa is at Buffalo, and a lot of storylines here. Number one, Brady Tkachuk sidelined for the Senators. He's out for about a month, so that's not helping Ottawa's cause. Secondly, Buffalo still seeking their first victory. They just lost to Colorado on Monday. Buffalo has not been able to get anything going. I feel like Buffalo's been stuck for years. They just can't get anything going and try to get into playoff contention. But the Sabres are short underdog at home, Lee, against the Senators. So what do you like here?
All right. So line here, if you like Buffalo, is plus 105 to 110. If you like it like I do, you want to get on it now because I think they might end up the favorite. I think this is your classic pros versus Joes game tonight. People are going to see Buffalo sitting with an 0-3 record with just 2 goals scored this season. And they're going to remember that Ottawa made the playoffs last year and should be a good team this year. And I think you have to bet Ottawa in this game. But there's a reason the Sabres here, who have looked lifeless early in the season, are almost, I think, a clear-cut favorite in this game. Now, first off, Ottawa plays tomorrow as well. They're on the front end of a back-to-back tonight, considering Buffalo's early struggles. Travis Green, Ottawa's head coach, very likely could go with a backup goalie here tonight. Omar, their number one goalie here, had been really poor this season, and he might just need a night off. And also, most importantly, as you mentioned, Brady Tkachuk, Matthews' brother, likely broken wrist here. And their home opener on Monday. Tkachuk is the captain of the team, and this offense just has not done a whole lot with him when he's not on the ice in recent years. The last thing here is Buffalo is due for some better offense. Why do I say that? Remember, this team was 8th in goals per game at home last year. We rode them a bunch at home. They can score this year despite only scoring 1 goal in 2 home games. They rank 11th in the NHL in shot attempts per game and also 14th in shots on goal per game. So, hockey is just getting shots on goal, a lot of times getting lucky. You get a bunch of deflections here. And I think they're going to bounce back tonight. I think the wrong team is favored here, despite tons of public support for the road team. We're going to take the Buffalo Sabres money line plus 105 to plus 110. Like I said, wrong team favorite.
And also, too, a couple things on Buffalo. In the Colorado game on Monday, they had a couple of power play opportunities in that first period and just couldn't cash in. And they gave up an early goal to the Avalanche. They ended up tying it at 1 and then just really couldn't get over the hump in that one. And like you mentioned with Ottawa, they face Seattle coming up tomorrow, and they're back at home for about 4. So after Ottawa was on the road to begin the season, they had that one quick home game against Nashville. They go on the road for this, and then back at home, laying a short price. It may not be a great spot for them this evening. And again, losing Tkachuk just doesn't help them at all. And they've had injury concerns, and they fell behind in the Tampa Bay game. They were lucky to win that one in the opener. It's just been a tough few games for Ottawa so far.
I agree, 100%. Like I said, ebb and flow of the NHL season, the NBA season. It's a long, long season. You got to pick your spots, and I think this is a great spot here. It wouldn't shock me if they even win the game by 2 goals.
Yeah, and this Sabres team, too, they're dealing with Alex Lyon in net, the former Panther, and he played in Detroit, so he's getting an opportunity, and the Sabres actually play the Panthers coming up on Saturday. So they're going to see if they can try to grab this one against a beat-up Ottawa team tonight at home. Coming up, we will take a look at Conference USA. There's 2 games tonight in college football. We will look at one of them straight ahead for our lock of the day right here on the Wednesday edition of Locked On Bets. Locked On Bets continues here on a Wednesday. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports. And now it's time for the Lock of the Day.
Open it, open it, open it. Lee has the key to the Lock of the Day.
Last week, we had the Red River shootout with the Oklahoma and Texas, but really the game that people in the Lone Star State are keeping an eye on, it's UTEP and Sam Houston State. I mean, Texas is small potatoes compared to this game tonight. The teams have combined for one win, and the Miners have that win. Bearkats with a K, they're looking for their first win. Lee, what do you like in this one? UTEP is a short favorite on the road here against Sam Houston State.
And it's going to probably be sold out, because it's a smaller venue. They're playing in the Houston Dynamo home stadium because they're redoing the stadium at Sam Houston State, which is in Huntsville, where the state prison is. So just a sustained fact, that's where when you see prisoners usually condemned to death row, that's where death row is. So in Texas. So Sam Houston State, though, had a good year last year, believe it or not. Most people don't realize this. They went 10-3. Now their head coach ended up leaving. They hired Phil Longo, who was at Wisconsin. Don't love him, but I think he's at least good enough to start winning here. Wasn't left with a whole lot, 8 returning starters. And they've just had some tough luck. They've had to play some tough teams. Had to play UNLV and lost 38-21. And we found out UNLV, really good team, undefeated right now. Had to play at Hawaii. Never easy. They were competitive and lost 37-20. That game was real close at half. And then last week, lost to Jacksonville State 29-27. So they're getting better and better. They do return their quarterback from last year, Hunter Watson. Hasn't been great, but, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But on the other side, UTEP, do you even want to touch this team? They had 167 total yards of offense last week, and literally about 100 of it was probably with 8-9 minutes to go in the game in garbage time. So they were not even competitive. I think they ended up with something like 8 first downs in the game. They had 2 or 3 going into the fourth quarter. Quarterback, Malachi Nelson, started off at USC. Didn't work out. 5-star, not a 3 or 4-star, 5-star kid. And I watched the kid. I'm like, wow, this kid isn't much. Then he moves to Boise State. Couldn't even win the starting job there. Now he's at UTEP, and he looks awful. 8 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He's barely completing 54% of his passes. Didn't start last week, came in, and on top of just not looking good, his body language is awful. They don't have a running game to complement him at all. Hassan Wilson's the leading rusher. That's right. 208 yards. If that's your leading rusher, that's not going to help out. This coach, Scotty Waldron, who came over from Austin Peay, was thought to be an offensive guru, but I'm not seeing it. I don't see any playmakers on defense at all 3 levels, and the defensive line, linebacker, defensive backfield position. They only returned 11 starters. Anyone who was anyone pretty much has left UTEP in the last couple of years. No one's interested in the program. It's dead. At least Sam Houston might come back after, a tough start to the year. They did look really good. They went to a bowl last year and won the bowl game here. So I think you're getting 2.5 points here. Traveling on the road on a Wednesday night, always tough here. We're going to go not all the way up, all the way down. Level 1 lock here. Sam Houston State at home, plus 2.5. They finally get a dub here.
You ever see on social media the scoregami, Lee? You know what the scoregami is? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If people don't know what that is, that's when it's like a score of a game that's like for the first time ever we've seen this wacky score. I got to believe, and I'm just saying this off the top of my head, I've never seen a team in football score this amount of points in 3 consecutive games. This is UTEP. 25, 11, and 8.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody do that before. Right. Those are 3 of the weirdest point totals you can have in 3 consecutive games. So UTEP coming off an 8-point effort against Liberty and an 11-point effort against Louisiana Tech and losses. And now they go to Sam Houston State, and the offense just isn't good. So
how bad, Kevin, is Conference USA? I mean, Sun Belt, they have some ups and downs. This might be the worst conference. Well, the Pac-2 is the worst. There's only 2 teams this year. It'll be expanded next year, but Liberty, not good this year at all.
No.
Louisiana Tech, Western Kentucky, they got waxed last night by Florida International, FIU. Middle Tennessee, New Mexico State, UTEP, Jacksonville State, FIU, Sam Houston State, Delaware, Missouri State, and Kennesaw State here. Whoever wins the conference, they shouldn't even get a conference championship ring. You know.
Well, but also Liberty, they were the preseason favorite, and they've had some bad losses, and they were up big on New Mexico State last night, almost lost the game. They had to win it late. FIU had a good win at Western Kentucky, but even going back to it was Sam Houston State, they almost beat Jacksonville State last week. Jacksonville State needed a 52-yard field goal to beat them. And you actually have an interesting game tonight. Is Delaware and Jacksonville State is the other Conference USA game that's on ESPN. That one's getting showcased to the world. So, yeah, with all the realignment, you're not going to get really good teams in these lower conferences.
No, you get a few interesting games. The Liberty game, at least, was interesting and fun to watch. But, I mean, there's some really bad teams here. So, my suggestion is, they maybe make a 64-team power, Power 4 conferences and put 16 teams in 4 conferences and let them play off. And then you have the second tier. I mean, even teams like Tulane, which is, pretty good team. And every, 4 or 5 years, teams like that and teams like Memphis are competitive. But the bottom line is, they're not drawing fans. They're not drawing, a whole lot of bodies to the games. And the TV interest isn't there. So just it's tough for them. Whenever they start developing players and become good, these better teams raid their roster. So just my 2 cents. I think you want to have probably 64 power teams that have the money, and then you have the rest that, play at a different level, and they are what they are.
Now, with all that being said, we're in the middle of all this football, even through the week. We had a couple games last night, 2 games tonight. Back at it Thursday with the NFL. So, Lee, what's going on at Paramount Sports? Very busy time.
Yep. Well, I mean, NFL has been our bread and butter. We had this promotion. It was NFL 5 for 55. The last 4 Sundays, put out 5 selections. Well, we had an off week last week. We went 4-1. The 3 weeks before that, 5-0. So what we're going to do, we're going to make it available. Anyone wants to get in on these Sunday games, and they're released usually Thursday at the latest Friday morning. We will text you the selection, so you got them early. You don't have to wait till Saturday or Sunday morning. You can get 4 weeks, $197, 5 selections every single Sunday. People love betting the NFL. Or 12 weeks through the end of the regular season, which is January 4th, $497. So you want to bet our NFL. It's been red hot. We've had 4 straight winning weeks, combined college and NFL. So, like I said, NFL so hot, it's scorching 19-1 the last 20 games. So NFL 4 weeks, the special, we call it Lee's NFL Golden Ticket. 4 weeks, $197, or 12 weeks, $497. Just one place, ParamountSports.com.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel here, Locked On Bets, as well as the podcast version on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get them. And we appreciate your support there. You can find Lee on X at Paramount Sports, myself at Rogers Picks. And we'll be back with you on Thursday for another edition of Locked On Bets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.